Well, now there was a guy that got real sick of working in the big city. One day, he quit his job, packed up his wife and kids, and moved his family out to Kansas. He moved his family out to Kansas to become a farmer. He bought a big lot of land with a big old barn and some fields just ready to be plowed and planted. Now, not really having much of a green thumb, the poor fellow didn't know where to start with the farm. Then his wife suggested that they get a mule to pull the plow for them, and Frank thought this was a splendid idea. He set off down the road to visit with their new neighbor and ask him where he could possibly buy a mule. Well, that neighbor was a bit of a nut job. He'd sized up his new neighbor as a newbie, and in about 5 seconds had decided to have a bit of fun with him. The neighbor suggested,
"Well, you could advertise for a mule in the local paper, but if you want to do it the Kansas way, well then you should get yourself a mule egg and hatch your own. That way you can train the mule up from birth to do exactly as you want."
Frank's eyes got real wide from excitement. "I didn't know mules hatched eggs," he said with excitement. "Where do I get one?" His neighbor replied, "It just so happens I have one mule egg left from the batch I raised." He went into the shed and came out with a round, hairy coconut. Frank's eyes lit up again. "How much do I owe you?" he asked his neighbor. "That'll be $100. And mind you, you've got to sit on the mule egg day and night for over a week before it'll hatch," the neighbor said, accepting Frank's money and handing over the coconut. Well, Frank ran all the way home and showed the mule egg to his wife and kids. Everyone was thrilled with his purchase, and they all took turns sitting on the coconut, waiting for it to hatch. They waited 1 week. Then they waited 2. By the 3rd week, everyone's bottoms were so sore from sitting on the hard coconut, and still there was no sign of a mule.
"It must be a bad egg,"
the wife said at last.
"Better throw it out and see if our neighbor will give us our money back."
As the disappointed family watched, Frank took the coconut outside and pitched it into the bushes. All at once, a giant jackrabbit burst out of the tall grass next to the bushes and hopped away lickety-split. "It's the baby mule!" shouted one of the kids. "Catch it, Dad! Catch it!" Well, Frank ran after that long-eared critter as fast as he could go, shouting, "I'm your mama, baby mule. Please come back." But he was no match for that jackrabbit. It darted here and there, and finally slid down a hole in the ground and disappeared. Frank fell to the ground and lay panting in exhaustion. A few moments later, his wife and kids caught up with him and pulled him to his feet.
"Where's our mule?"
asked his wife.
"That darn thing got away," said Frank. "I'm not sorry it did. That's the speediest mule I ever laid eyes on. I don't aim to plow that fast."